Good morning. Give me a sec. Something going weird with my webcam over here. All right. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. How are we all doing? Hope everyone's having a lovely Saturday morning. Good to see you guys. Just wait a sec while a few people trickle in. How's everyone doing? Hey Mary, how are you? Everything all good? Okay, so let's get into BTC first as per usual, then into ETH, then into the altcoins, and maybe a bit of macro stuff peppered in as well. Okay, so BTC, let's go from, let's do a good old top down. We haven't done this in a minute, okay? We'll do it from the monthly all the way down, okay? What's up, Juggler? How you doing? Okay, cool. So we'll blitz through this because obviously on the monthly, a lot's left unchanged from the last update. But to recap briefly, we have this potential RSI monthly divergence here still, but nothing on the awesome oscillator as we have higher highs. Price also has higher highs. See here that the only divergence present are the lower highs on the RSI. Okay. Now, to recap, we always want to see double confirmation. So it would be a much stronger signal and much more likely to say there's likely a top in here if we were to have that double confirmation across the RSI and the awesome oscillator, with both of them putting in lower highs whilst price makes higher highs. Okay, so it's still present on the RSI for sure on the monthly, but at the moment, yeah, the awesome oscillator has been invalidated in terms of double divergence confirmation. So down to the weekly. Now, weekly mixed bag. Yeah. Reason being is because we had this pocket here of demand. Okay, so we had this cluster. We've been speaking about this cluster for months now. Okay, so the creation of a cluster, intra-demand cluster, is as follows: impulse to the upside, bracketing, and impulse away. Okay. Created this pocket of intra-demand. Price is still currently holding up here. Okay, it's still currently holding up, although now with this many taps in, one, I'd count this really as two because there's many taps, and you can see the double wicks here. This demand is technically, for me, semi-exhausted. Okay, so it's weakened demand. You can see here in my tools, I just toggle it over to weak SD. And we would expect, if we start to get any more closes into this zone here, that it's made redundant. Okay, so really this is sort of the last push on the weekly time frame. We really want to see BTC move away from this area here. We do not want to see any more closes back into this zone. You can see that we had, if we sort of magnify and zoom in, we had a couple of closes here, but it's kind of on the line. Okay, if we get any sort of really firm and convincing closes into that zone, not ideal, not what we want to be seeing. Okay, but for now it's fine. And we're starting to see that push away. All right, things are looking healthy as it stands today. What also looks good is this. All right, and any avid watchers or followers, excuse me, of my content will know how much precedence I place on resets, in particular high time frame resets, and in particular exact resets, and that's exactly what we have here, with price coming down exactly to the 50 level. Okay, so you can see we sort of came down and did a technical reset here, came down to the 54s, fine. But here we are bang on the money. We're bang on the mark in terms of the 50 level. And if we start to see something like this, where this starts pushing away on BTC, and then the RSI starts pushing away here, okay, then we're looking incredibly healthy, right? So we'd be looking incredibly healthy from an RSI reset perspective. And I've noted this before, but if we just go into the stochastics as well, you'll see that it's the same sort of thing, right? Whenever we get RSI resets on the mid, it means that the stock is overextended to one degree or the other. And you can see here that we have stock down here at the lows, okay? So oscillators look good on the weekly. Price still looks healthy as long as we don't close into this weakened demand zone, weakened intra-demand zone any further. And for now, still looking all gravy on the weekly time frame. Okay, but as I say, we don't want to see any closes back into this zone. 3-day, not much to note. Okay, there's not much to note here. Daily, slightly more so. Okay, you can see that price at the moment is still struggling with the underside of this 50 level. Okay, so you can see the tap in here, rejection here, we overcame it, and we spike up, take the highs out, then come down, retest the underside, and at the moment we are at that underside of the daily 50 level once again. So, goes without saying, what we want to see on the RSI on the daily is something like this, reclaim that mid. Okay, that's very, very important for any sort of upside momentum in this area. We want to see a reclaim of the mid. And as we do so as well, there's a bit of a trouble area in here, okay? So whenever we get these wipeouts, right, it's almost always something like this, okay? So first off, you have the wipeout. Oh, what's that? First off, you have the wipeout here. Then you get a price that comes down to retest liquidity. We almost, honestly, the data on how many times we just V reverse is so small in terms of percentiles. We almost always come down, bleed down, diverge in this area. In this case, it was a 12-hour divergence, which I'll show you in a second. And basically what happens in this area here is it makes everyone sweat. Okay, so this really is the second sort of capitulation event that takes place in the charts, normally by way of cortisol decay, whereby anyone that's long this in this area from, you know, maybe longs at the close here, daily close, let's say like so. Let's say they put their stop here or wherever it was, because putting it down here was just too outrageous, it was too wide. Let's say they've longed it like this. Yeah, it comes down and stops out all of these traders who are trying to chance this move and thinking erroneously, in the sense that many new traders are taught to buy the blood. Okay, you hear this all the time, over and over again, right? As aspiring traders, as traders nascent in their journey, you're taught by figureheads such as Warren Buffett, etc., to buy when there's blood in the streets. Buy when you're fearful, right? Counter trade your own emotions. And as it's a difficult task, you think it's the right thing to do. Okay, and almost always it's not, unless you're waiting for the dust to settle. Right, and what I mean by that is waiting for the divergence to play out. Now, as this divergence plays, what happens is you leave a high up here. Okay, so this high here at the 115s, closer to 116s, is the high that I'm talking about. So really what I want to see on the daily is firstly this RSI 50 level reclaimed, but then also this high to be reclaimed as well. Okay, what we don't want to see is a sharp move up from here. Price spikes up, takes out both of these highs here, like so, takes out this high, then takes out this final absolute high here, and then just comes down and carries on the downtrend, right? That's what we don't want to see. So from a price perspective and a price action perspective, this 116 high is the most important, right? We don't want to sweep this. If you start seeing any signs of a sweep or SFP or lower time frame divergences into that high, or like I mentioned, speed as well, we don't want to see any fast, inefficient moves into that high, then that's a cause for concern, okay? And at that point, perhaps you can start thinking about short positioning, or if you're long down here from this low and trying to take this 12-hour isolated RSI divergence, as there wasn't double agreement on the awesome oscillator, then you can think about exiting that position as well, okay? So that's the daily 12-hour, and you can see the divergence there. Take a look. Right, so a very, very clean divergence on the RSI here. Right, it's a very, very clean divergence. The reason it's particularly clean is because of the arc structure, right? Whenever you can take this sort of, this curve tool here and span it across, and it sort of fits really nicely, even though obviously there's going to be janky bits that sort of stick out. Generally speaking, it's a really nice curve, it's a really nice arc, okay? So for me, that's why I love the structure of this divergence. That being said, there are some cons to note. For instance, we've come up to the 45s, which is a technical reset of the divergence. Number two, it's flat bottomed, right? So we don't have an extreme divergence. Ideally, we'd like to see more of a low down here, right? And just basically put in some sort of angle that's like this, okay? As opposed to it being flat bottomed, which would make the divergence against price more severe, more extreme. Number three, we don't have both peaks very overextended, okay? As you can see here, they're kind of just on the 30s, 29.2s. And number four, we don't have double agreement. The awesome oscillator is certainly not diverging, okay? So we don't have that agreement where both the oscillators are diverging at the same time. Again, we'd like to see something like this on the awesome oscillator, right? This peak comes down to here. Something like this, okay? Ideally, that's what we want to be seeing. Obviously, we do not have that yet, okay? So the divergence doesn't get great scoring, right? Despite it having great structure. I love the structure of the RSI divergence. I did not position into this divergence off the back of the scoring of the div, okay? There were just too many X's and not enough ticks to take a trade in this area, despite the really appetizing structure in terms of the curved arc on the 12-hour RSI divergence. I'm just going to go ahead and set an alert here as well. Don't believe I have one. So again, this high is very much the ones to look out for, okay? We want to see this reclaimed, okay, with some ferocity. We do not want to see this sweat and start closing back underneath with any nasty tailside wicks up here. Good morning, Ghost. How are you? Hope you're well. So 4-hour RSI looking fairly promising here with a reclaim of the mid, all good, okay? So all good on that side. Down to the hourly, let's see where we're at. Again, fairly healthy in this area, okay? So for me, what I'd be doing really in this area is just focusing on the 4-hour, 12-hour, etc. There's no need, and the daily, of course. Okay, there's no need really to be sort of grinding down to the lower time frames and looking at the hourly here, especially considering it's a Saturday morning. Okay, so we're likely to see, you know, what we're seeing here. I'm probably going to see more of that. Okay, some more consolidation, some more chop. Nothing too directional across the weekend period, if I had to guess. Good evening, Warren. Long time, man. Hope you've been well. Okay, so that's BTC covered pretty much. Okay, pretty much covered on the BTC side of things. We can check the Delta. So Delta's been a bit erratic of late, okay? Reason being is because we had a huge spike here of negative Delta, but we have it all the way up here, right? Basically at this candle, okay? So this candle here, It's actually this small candle here. All right, so very, very small candle. But you can see lots of market selling occurred into limit bids in this area, which is normally indicative of the heavier hand stepping in. But it was strange to see this sort of downturn afterwards. Okay, fine, it can be considered as local delta. Doesn't have to be immediate, like an immediate push from there. Unfortunately, delta does not work in that manner. We have to give it a bit more discretion and take a few more elements into consideration as per the delta dynamics in the area. Okay, so we can take local delta, that's fine. It doesn't have to be immediate, but this sort of downturn and bleed down here was surprising to see this percentage occur. Okay, that being said, this delta spike is, I believe, the largest in the look back, if memory serves right. Yeah. So we've had if we just take price up here, just look at this picture. Okay, so the largest hourly spike of negative delta, right, has occurred recently on the Trump tariff wipeout. Okay, we have the by far largest spike of liquidations, and I believe the largest liquidation event ever in crypto history. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, guys. I'm not too up to date on the fundamental and macro side of things, but that's what I heard through Twitter whispers. So it's a very interesting area indeed for BTC here. Okay, we have lots of absorption. We have heavy local liquidations off the back of the NUKE as well. Okay. Essentially, this is one of those points in the market where it's sort of, if you look at the sort of delta and the licks, we're looking at a sort of make or break territory really here. Okay, because with this kind of data, we would very much expect, if we are still in a macro uptrend, for price to push from here, right, to carry on to the upside, especially considering the sort of weekly picture, last tap perhaps into weekly intra demand, and that sort of weekly exact 50 reset as well. Quite a few things are harmonizing in this area to put a sort of base case argument on the table for relief in this area and another push to the upside, perhaps into price discovery. Now, if we can't do that and we can't pull that off, right, then it's a very, very, very bad sign. Okay, I can't even stress, that maybe sort of pack it up, it's over for this cycle sort of thing, right? If we can't reclaim and start putting in relief in this area off the back of the largest isolated delta spike in the look back period on the hourly, so that takes us back to April, and what I believe is the largest liquidation event in crypto history, right? These are massive capitulation events that have taken place. And we would hope to see some relief in this area. If we do not, that is a very, very bad sign for bulls. Okay. Yeah, it's a very pivotal moment in crypto at the moment, a very important moment, and bulls really need to sort of pull their socks up and put in the work. Good morning, Angelo. How are you, man? Okay, BTC rant over. Ethereum. We'll flash through top down. That's a bit too thick for me, right? For a level here on the monthly, slightly too wide. Okay. Those that are avid students in mine will know that I prefer thinner SR levels, otherwise it's sort of stretching to fit your own narrative. We can take a look at the weekly though. Right, maybe we have a tighter level here. Yeah, we've got a nice level here. Okay. So that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Weekly RSI, right, come down from 75s. And we're sort of curling down here near the 50 level, right, here on the weekly, or the 54s. So it's a technical reset, right? For me, anything within the 45 to 55 region is good enough for a reset, right? It doesn't have to be an exact reset. that being said, we do, of course, have the weekly reset on BTC here, the exact reset, and that is more appetizing. But if you sort of, put these pictures together of the weekly RSI on BTC and the weekly RSI coming down from the 75s and cooling off around that 54 region on ETH, it's not looking too shabby here. It's not looking too shabby. My cause for concern on Ethereum is, if we just scroll down, just want to sort of scan through these time frames, see if there's anything particularly noteworthy. My cause for concern is these double stacked lows. Okay, so we've got 3354 and 3435 here, two lows on Ethereum, and it would have been much more promising from my perspective if we just gone down a few more pips here on that Trump wipeout and taken out this low, even if it was a shallow sweep. Another 4% would have pushed us into that region where we take out the 3354s. And I can't say I like this lower time frame picture for upside, particularly so, right? Despite us, putting in some work here, potentially reclaiming 4-hour mid, we have these unswept lows down here, okay? And whenever we have unswept lows or unswept highs, essentially what they do is they act as liquidity points, right? So points in the market whereby price tends to revisit, okay? So we normally do damage in this area, right? Do something like this, wipe out this low. And the reason being is because this is basically how value is extracted from the markets by larger participants and organizations. So I will run through a quick demonstration to sort of elucidate what I mean there, past just simple theory. Okay, so if you are a large organization and you want to profit from this market, okay, if you want to profit from this market, essentially what you have to do is funnel a ton of size into the market and then have that size move in the favor and direction of your position. Okay, so, and normally what happens is trend continuation. Okay, so it's normally, as we're in an uptrend, it would normally be an entity looking to position long, right, trying to catch a ride on the train, knowing that we're hovering underneath this breakout level here on the weekly, and that any pushes past this level and closes on the higher time frames would signal a higher time frame breakout, which would then encourage another tranche of audience members and market participants into this market, would fuel it to the upside and give it a good push. Okay, let's say we're talking about retail now. Okay, so let's say we have a few retail participants. Okay, participant number one, okay, and we'll put these, we can use just white lines, or let's use green lines. Let's go blue. So participant number one, right, he's longs this 4-hour close here. He sees that the market has nuked. He sees that it's been the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. He knows that Ethereum is the strongest asset, and so he wants to position into Ethereum. All fairly sensible thought processes, considering we've wiped out 30%, right? And we know that 30% wipeouts are commonplace in bull runs, and they're normally capped to 30%. There's rare times we dip into the 40s, but generally speaking, this has been a huge wipeout, and he intends to long the blood, right? So that's participant A. Participant B decides to wait for a bit more confirmation, right? Decides to wait for a bit more of a push away, and takes along from this area here, okay? Let's say participant C has been a bit more patient, wanted to see some consolidation in this region, okay? Didn't want to see an immediate push down again, okay? Wanted to see price hold up in this area. And as a result, as we're talking right now, he takes a position here, okay? So you have 3 market participants that are long Ethereum. Now, participant A, long from here. Okay, his stop, where's it going to be? Okay, the plausible place is not going to be at this low here. Okay, he's not going to put it here unless he's a cowboy. He's not going to put it here. because we have another low it can stretch for. He's going to put it here, right, at this final independent absolute low. Okay, he's targeting something like this. He's looking for price to go up, reclaim and break out of this weekly SR level and start pushing for more upside. Okay, so he's looking at like a 4-hour trade. Participant B, okay, from here, so slightly higher up, okay, still targeting the same sort of thing, but he has to put his stop in a responsible place, okay, and he understands that more downside could occur because he hasn't taken the most opportune entry point, so he also has to put his stop down here at the low, right? Participant C, right here, same story, okay? The most plausible, responsible place to place his stop loss is down here, okay? So what you're seeing is basically a bunch of traders that have entered into this market at different points, all place their stop loss at almost exactly the same point, right? This low here at 3,350, okay? So they're all long and their stop losses are market sells, okay? When market sells interact with limit buys, okay, that's basically where the absorption takes place. So if we are a large institutional entity, we have to operate in limit form. Okay, we cannot operate in market form because there'll be too much slippage. They will skew the books too much, and they have to. They basically need, the opposing counterforce in the market, being retail participants, in the form of market orders to fill their limit bits. Okay, so points like this are, the big dogs in the market often see these areas as points of opportunity. Okay, because as all the traders, the retail traders A, B, and C get stopped out, their market sells get triggered. And basically what can match those market sells are a stack of limit bids, okay? So they can be a large institutional organization waiting here, right? So waiting for price to come down, take out these lows, sometimes even manipulating price, right, and holding it down with asks, right? So you can hold it down with asks in this area by way of whatever their algorithm mechanism is. Okay, so sort of basically shield price and suppress it and stop it pushing to the upside until the sort of buyers in this area give up, the sell side momentum takes control, and we push down, take out these lows. There's a bit of panic that escalates the move perhaps by way of retail, and the larger institution gets filled. Okay, so usually that's what happens in these areas. Now, theory rant aside, I'm not saying that that's 110% going to occur. I'm just saying that's usually the outcome. Okay, so from a lower time frame perspective, i.e. 4-hour and lower, these double stack lows here, not exactly what I want to see on the side of things. And I hope that makes more sense as to why I would have liked to see this though get wiped out before any upside, and the fact that we didn't quite take it out is making me tentative and feel a sense of trepidation in this area. And do you guys have any questions on any of all of that? Okay. Delta wise, looks pretty good in this area. Okay, so delta wise things look pretty good, which would be a counter argument to the theory that I've just run through. Let's just see again. Go back in this look back period. Now on the 4-hour. Again, you can see that the Trump wipeout here on the 4-hour, largest, by far the largest spike of delta in this area, and largest liquidations in the look back, and I believe largest liquidations period. Right, so again, cannot stress how pivotal and how important this area is for Ethereum. Okay, so Ethereum and BTC really need to pull their socks up from this area. Okay, so that could include, right, what I just ran through here. Okay, so we could still take out these lows, and this could be counted as local confluence in a sense. Okay, or we want to move up directly from here and have it be that rare time where the theory that I just ran through doesn't take effect. Okay, but if we don't, and we essentially, if we sort of mark this up as a range here, if we start doing something like this, and this becomes a let's say this is a range at the highs, and it starts looking more so like distribution by means of the fact that we do come down here, but we don't see that push. Okay, so what we don't see here is lots of negative delta. Okay, because if that theory is to play out, we'll see it plain as day within the delta charts. Okay, the data on the ETH and BTC templates that we use here is aggregated. It's spanning across multiple exchanges. You can see here 27 markets for Ethereum. From my experience, it's reliable data. Okay, so if we do see that wipeout and takeout of this this final low here, then we should very much see it in the way of the delta templates producing another big spike or cluster of negative delta. Okay, so if we do come down here, and if you are users of delta, then please keep your eyes on it, because that will tell you exactly what you need to know as to whether it's likely going to be the theory that we ran through, and that it is simply a large entity or organization accumulating, or whether we don't see that take place and there isn't anybody there accumulating and no one is stepping in. Okay, so if we do take out these double stack lows, keep your eye on the delta. Okay, either way, we really want to see ETH push as a result of that sweep or from this area here. Yeah, pivotal time indeed for both Ethereum and BTC. We need to see a push from both, whether that's wiping out this low, moving from this area, and I mean for BTC it's more of a make or break from this area scenario, because purely on the weekly picture, like I said, I don't want to see any closes back into this demand zone. It would be best to push from this area in of itself. Okay, so lengthy discussions on BTC and Ether. We can take a look at some of the altcoins. Opened up on TRX. TRX is probably the most interesting market in this area. Okay, so TRX has been historically very, very, very strong. Okay, so this has just been one of the most strong, consistent markets over the last few years, really. Okay, so the higher time frame picture on TRX, very, very strong indeed. Now, you can see that the weekly at the moment is down to the 47s, I believe. Yeah, 47.25. Okay, we've still got 1 day and 14 hours until the weekly close. And what we're doing here is basically interacting at the most important point, locally speaking, on the lower time frames. If we can take out, again, we've got these double stack lows, right? Like we were just talking about on Ethereum, but here on TRX, we've taken them out, okay? If we can start pushing off the back of the 4 hour being as hyperextended as it is here, these double stack lows here, and the fact that we have a relatively fast move in price, okay, as price basically comes down to scorch and sweep. If you refer back to the beginning of the stream, I said that sweeps are more likely to occur if they're fast. Okay, so this is a very fast move down to these levels, not just taking out the first, taking out both. So again, akin, very, very similar to ETH, but TRX has just gone ahead and done it, okay? Now, if we can start reversing in this area, whether that's off the back purely of this speed, or maybe we start forming some lower time frame divergences, maybe something like this, perhaps. Right, pure speculation here, perhaps. If we start to reverse in this area by any means, then what we may do, if we're lucky enough and the low volatility period of the weekend doesn't hinder this thought process too much, what we may do is put in an exact weekly reset on TRX as well. Okay? Because at the moment we're at just underneath here, 47.2s. But if price starts to experience some lower time frame relief, and let's say we close the weekly up here or something, okay, then this may close bang on the 50. Okay? So that's kind of what my eyes are on. That's where my mind is going in terms of looking forward. At the moment, of course, it's all hearsay. All I do know is the lower time frame picture has taken out these double stack lows here, done so with speed, and kind of done so isolated to the rest of the market. Okay, so if we go back to the theory we were just talking about on Ethereum, it's kind of happening here, right? Or let me rephrase that. This is the point at which it would happen here for TRX, almost exactly mirrored. Right? We have those double stack lows. It's the same sort of dynamic in terms of left side price action. We were sort of hovering around in this area, consolidating post NUKE, and we've now scorched and wiped out these two lows with speed. Okay, at the same time, you can see how hyperextended the 4 hour is down to sub 20s into the sort of 17s, 18s here as well. So TRX is a very, very interesting market to keep an eye on. Okay, so this is the area I imagine TRX will reverse if it is to continue to the upside and continue this higher time frame trend. Otherwise, it's sort of down into here. But generally speaking, I would expect it to sort of move up from this area if it is to do so, okay, because this has already been a significant correction here. 20%, all right? So on a market as strong as TRX, that's already quite significant. And just the area that we're in and the dynamics of price action here, as you can see, taking out these two lows, this is kind of the point at which TRX needs to sort of put in the work and move higher. Okay. So by far the most interesting market and the one that I'll be watching this weekend. Let's take a look at the dailies. All right. So daily wise, there are a few interesting markets. BNB not too shabby here, sort of hovering around the mid. Okay, so again, want to see that sort of more confident reclaim, push away. You can see that we're curling here, but something like that would be nice. Okay, BNB has obviously been one of the much more ferocious markets of late. Okay, alongside TRX, alongside the likes of, there's been a few that have held up fairly nicely in this area. We can run through them in a sec. So the reason I'm looking at the dailies in particular is because you can see I put together this watch list recently, earlier on in the week, to be honest. But some of them were putting in the starts of daily divergences. Really, I would have liked to see another push in this area. Okay, so I would have liked to see another leg down. The only one that could really still pull it off is XDC. Okay, we did something like this. All right, this would be a very, very nice trigger. Really, really liking how overextended the first leg is here, down at the 20s as well. Okay, and taking out this low and then perhaps continuing to the upside. Okay, perhaps. I'm not saying this will occur. I'm just saying this is what my eyes are looking for in this area. Maybe a slightly wide stop. Okay, something like this. All right, would make for a very nice play. XRP and HBAR were markets I had my eye on. HBAR could still do the daily div, right? Something like this. But XRP has experienced a bit too much relief. Let's say we come down and retest this level here from a sort of SR perspective. Put in a double divergence across the RSI and the awesome oscillator. Lower lows on price, higher lows on the oscillators. Okay, potential trigger, potential setup on HBAR. XRP is not really on the cards anymore because in this area of consolidation here, we've come up and we are retesting the underside of the mid here, as opposed to doing that structure on HBAR and following from this leg down into the overextended region. Okay, so where were we? Weekly strength. Yeah, there's been a few interesting markets in terms of more resilient markets recently as well. You know, my eyes are always looking at the strongest markets, the ones that have held up the most in NUKEs, right? So M has been one of those markets. You can see we're sort of breaking out this daily level here, okay? And whilst the rest of the market has been completely nuking, I believe this was sort of the crypto nuke here, okay? So just like not really very much, just put in a sort of daily doji candle, Darth Vader, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, looking pretty resilient in this area. Merlin is another one. Okay, so it's yeah, looking super healthy here. Okay, so just looking really, really lovely on the daily time frame. You can see that we've come down, reset, okay, bang into the 50 level, and just cleanly pushing away. Me and members of my Discord group have been trying desperately to find a breakout level to work around here, but it's been very difficult, okay? But you can see here, even, you know, we've got some semblance of a level. We've got consolidation prior to the breakout. We've got a daily reset, and we've got a push on a market that basically didn't even realize that the wipeout and the biggest liquidation event, biggest nuke, and biggest wipeout in crypto history was taking place. Something to pay attention to for sure. Okay, gents, I've got a couple of questions here. We'll address them and then probably wrap up. Okay. So aren't you worried about the weekly RSI div on TRX? Just asking. Let's take a look. There's no weekly div here by my book. Okay, there's no weekly divergence here. So for a div, what I want to see is price to come up. Okay. Form the higher high. And we can still work with this peak, sure, because it's very overextended. But then something like this to occur, right, and put in the lower high. So there's no div in my book here. What do you think about double div on Suri 12 hour? Let's take a look. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yes, we have agreement, right? Where both are diverging, fine. That's all good. Right, and you've got this triple hump structure on the awesome oscillator, which is very nice, okay, from an AO perspective. But in terms of, like, we could have done a double hump divergence here, but price didn't come down to the overextended by any means here, and it still didn't even do so on that first leg, okay? So I really want to see the second leg at least reach the 30. Okay, so being up here at 32's kind of a no-go for me by my book. Okay. So I think we've done a pretty comprehensive recap analysis on the markets here. Give me a sec. I mean the huge div from December 24 highs, candle close, not wick. You're talking about TRX still? Let's have a look. The huge div from December 24th, from December 24 high, from here? No, that's not a divergence, my friend. I've got a video on the channel, which is called the RSI Masterclass. Definitely recommend you watch that. But here we have an exact reset, which has come down to the 50 level here, completely reset the divergence and invalidated the structure here, right? So for this to be valid, firstly, it's far too wide, right? This is just way too wide. Secondly, we've come down and reset. Okay, so there's no divergence here on the weekly. Currently short ETH and BTC here with stops at 41.50 and 112.450. Thoughts? Good to hear from you, Stephen, but I don't want to comment on that. Okay, I don't want to give my thoughts because I don't like influencing other trades. All right, guys. Listen, I'm going to clock off, spend some time with the family. Hope you guys are well. Well done for tuning in on a Saturday and spending part of your weekend furthering your trading education. And I will see you guys next week, as always. I believe I will be streaming mid next week with an old friend of mine, Trader XO. But yeah, we'll put a post out at some point soon. Okay, so take care. Have a nice week.